Al Jazeera's Hind Khoudary is live from Deir el-Balah. Hind, it's good to talk to you. According to the United Nations report, the famine in Gaza City that is currently there is going to spread south to Deir el-Balah, where you are, and then even further south. But all of that is pretty administrative, technocratic classifications, because as Tarek just showed us in his report, you are already seeing people die of starvation in Deir el-Balah.
Definitely, we're talking about dozens of Palestinians, especially children, that are in risk of losing their lives due to the ongoing malnutrition and starvation that is imposed on them. I have been standing here for months telling and reporting how Palestinian parents are splitting the breadcrumbs into the family. I have been talking and saying how there's no fortified milk and how parents and mothers are giving their children water instead of milk. There has been a lot of stories we have been reporting, and the UN report has been very late. According to Palestinians, they have been witnessing weeks and months of this ongoing starvation. I would like to also highlight the fact that there is a lot of claims online that there is food coming into Gaza, and there is cheese and a lot of nutritious food coming in, but we need to know that this is commercial trucks. These are commercial trucks where Palestinians are unable to afford. You're talking about very skyrocketing prices where Palestinians displaced are unable to purchase. We're talking about a whole population that is relying on distribution points by the UN agencies, and we're also talking about Palestinians that completely rely on hot meal kitchens powered by UN agencies and other NGOs. And since those kitchens are not operating, since these distribution points are not operating, Palestinians are not getting the food. They do not have access, and they could not reach that food because this is the only way they have been depending on. Palestinians lost everything they have. The famine and the starvation that is imposed is still taking place in the hospital. In the Al-Aqsa hospital, there are a lot of cases. In Al-Nasr hospital, we're talking about 100 cases, according to doctors there. And this is in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip. And also in Mawasi, Khan Yunis, we're seeing how Palestinians are struggling to feed their families. This won't change. And according to doctors, this needs months of therapy and months of treatment and medical care for those Palestinians malnourished, and especially the Palestinian children. We're talking about dozens that are in risk. We're losing Palestinians' lives every single day from malnutrition, and Palestinians, and especially Palestinians who have malnourished kids in their families, they said that they're very helpless. They do not have anything to do, and they're just watching their children dying slowly because they definitely can't afford any food for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just also saw that in the report we ran just before you that was done by your colleague, our colleague, Tarek. Look, Hind, there have been, as there are every day, multiple Israeli attacks across the Gaza Strip. What are you learning about those?
So there were at least a total of 5 airstrikes carried out in Al-Asqula area, and this is in the southeast of the Gaza city in the past few hours. And this is another series of attacks in that area, and mostly these are because the Israeli forces are forcing Palestinians to flee from that area. We have been seeing Palestinians leaving a Zaytun neighborhood, a Sabra neighborhood, and this is due to the intensive airstrikes and targets carried in that area. But it's not only taking place in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, but also in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, and particularly in Mawasi, Khan Yunis. And this is claimed to be a safe humanitarian zone by the Israeli forces. There has been multiple airstrikes, and there is a lot of Palestinians that are currently seeking shelter and seeking refuge in that area. But also, it's not only the ongoing airstrikes, but Palestinians are still being killed very close to the notorious Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, where at least 5 Palestinians were killed in Zikib, in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, and 10 others have been killed in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, and especially in Khan Yunis. And we're talking about dozens of other Palestinians injured in both areas, and we're talking about a collapsing medical situation where Palestinians are unable to receive their treatment due to the lack of medicine and medical supplies.
Hind Khoudary reporting from Deir el-Balah. Thank you very much to you and your team. Now, joining us from Istanbul is Hilal Elver, a former UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food and current member of the high-level panel of experts on UN food security. It's good to have you on the program. So you've been working in this field for a very long time. Have you seen something like what we're seeing in Gaza before? And I mean, this deliberate on this scale?
Unfortunately not. The Gaza situation is totally unique because we have been looking at a current conflict situation last 20 years when I was talking the current. None of the cases are Gaza. For instance, the closer one is the Sudan, which they also in part declared the famine. But the people in Sudan, they can move from one place to another. They can escape. But in the situation in Gaza, there is no place to escape. An entire population under the serious siege. And the siege is not started in October 7, but there is, since 2007, there's a strong kind of siege and the food insecurity controlled by Israel. That was a kind of continuation of the very long time food insecurity. And now, the completely humanitarian aid is manipulated by Israel. Sometimes they allowed, sometimes they didn't allow. All the humanitarian aids are sitting in the border, which is also very unusual. Any of the cases, maybe there's not enough humanitarian aid or there's not enough any kind of humanitarian system. But in Gaza, everything is possible, but the Israel doesn't allow any of the food aid. So this is a very, very unique position.
There's something I'm hoping you can explain to our viewers. The UN has declared famine, as we know. The Israeli Prime Minister says, no, that's a lie. Specifically, he says, no, the IPC report upon which that declaration of famine is based, that's a lie. Can you explain just briefly to our viewers how famine is measured and why it cannot be a lie?
Well, a declaration of famine is a technical procedure. It is different than our social structure that we use about the famine. So there are certain kind of principles and certain kind of conditions must be there. For instance, the first one is 1 in 5 households face extreme food shortages. The second one is acute malnutrition, which is basically 15% to 30% of children will be under the acute malnutrition, this means acute. The third one, at least 2 adults or 4 children out of every 10,000 people dying each day hunger-related causes.
Sorry, say that number again, please.
At least 2 adults or 4 children out of every 10,000 people dying each day, hunger-related causes, which is happening right now in Gaza. This has been happening quite a long time ago, but IPC was not able to access to data physically. That's why they were not allowing to collect the data. That's the one problem. And the second one is the heavy kind of fight. It was very difficult to collect this kind of information. And third one, Israel was were giving certain kind of food aid just before the IPC is giving the report every 3 months. So they were not able to make it complete famine because just before the report comes, which starts since December 23, this is not the first report. Every 3 months, IPC give the report, give the maps and show this area, especially north, is extremely problematic.
Hilal, allow me to jump in. This is very interesting. You just told us, and again, just reminding our viewers that you are currently a member of the high-level panel of experts on UN food security. This is your area of absolute expertise. And you are telling us that Israel has been essentially trying to, after you explained to us that there are thresholds, right, which need to be met in order for famine to be officially declared, you then explained that Israel has been trying to manipulate those thresholds to be just under the declaration of famine. Now, this is in line with a long and rich history that Israel has, and this is what I'm asking you about now, of counting the calories that it allows into Gaza. For years, it didn't start post-October 7th. For years, Israel has been counting calories that it allows Palestinians to get. Is that something that had previously been on your radar?
That is correct. That's one of the issues that I mentioned. Gaza is a unique situation because it's been a long time. Israel was calculating what kind of famously called Gaza diet. Gaza diet means you have to be malnutritious, but not level of famine. They were calculating always, and they were not allowing some of the foods that comes to Gaza. For instance, they never allowed chocolate to come to the Gaza because they didn't like the children would be happy. That's an amazingly calculated system that started in 2007. That's not something happened in December 7, but generally UN Secretary General told us that it is not on vacuum. So that is not the vacuum. It's prepared quite a long time, technically very sophisticated manner.
So I'm going to make this abundantly clear. This is something, by the way, that Israeli media outlets had reported upon previously. If you read Haaretz, for instance, they had reports on this. But you're telling us that since 2007, this predates October 7th, 2023, by 16 years, Israel, you say, had a policy of enforcing malnutrition among Palestinians in Gaza that remained below the level of famine. In other words, they want to keep Palestinians malnourished and undernourished, but just under the level where the world declares famine and starts really worrying about it.
Yes, it is true, and it is not only some kind of information or my feelings. There are lots of reports on that. If you do the research, you will find a lot of even Israeli researchers wrote about this Gaza famine. And there was a famous, actually, minister was making, we are right now starting the diet in Gaza. So it's very well known, very, very clearly known. But before September the 7th, it was not much kind of in the mainstream mainstream media, just the scholars that dealing with these issues, they know that is the issue. That's the problem.
Hilal Elver, a member of the high-level panel of experts on UN food security. Thank you very much for joining us on the Al Jazeera NewsHour.
You're very welcome.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.